operation that I worked on that gained the most publicity. It got the most attention. It probably doesn't make the top 5, maybe the top 10 investigations that I had a direct hand in as an undercover operative, to be quite honest. Wow. What made that case glamorous or sexy in the eyes of the public, at least, wasn't necessarily what I did. It was who it was done on. You know, the Hells Angels, they're a part of Americana. They are, you know, they're America's crime export, organized crime export to the world. You know, mafias and organized crime come to the United States because there's money to be made here and there's opportunity for them. We, the United States, we exported the outlaw biker culture to Europe and to all these other countries that started here. When you ask someone that might not be knowledgeable of that culture or of that world, what do you think of when you think of a biker? They're going to describe the Hells Angels because that's what pops into people's minds. So that case got so much attention because who it was done on. If I would have ran that exact same case on any number of other criminal organizations, it probably wouldn't have gotten the attention. It was on the Hells Angels. Oh my goodness! Like these guys were not that they were not able to be infiltrated. It had never been done before in their 55-year history. Other people had tried and failed. There was this glamour behind it. But to be honest with you, that wasn't even my best work or my best case.
So you were the first guy to infiltrate the Hells Angels, that's right?
Yes, sir. The first person to become a full member of the gang.
I do want to sort of dive more into this because, like you said, it is sort of the sexier one, the biggest name, and I think there is sort of a fascination with the Hells Angels and other biker gangs like it, you know, the Outlaws, you know, some of the other ones out there. I can't really think of them right now, but there are a number of other gangs, you know, biker gangs throughout the United States, and some deadly ones too. I think there's actually, I forget the name of it. Forgetting the name of it, but they're actually, I guess, supposedly more deadly than the Hells Angels, or they commit more murders per year than the Hells Angels.
Well, you look at, you know, what's typically in that world classified as the Big Four, which are the Hells Angels, which are dominant on the West Coast, but they're spread everywhere. You have the Pagans on the East Coast. You have the Outlaws in the Midwest and in the South, and then you have the Bandidos, which are like Arizona or Texas, New Mexico, up through Canada. Now, they've all spread internationally, and then outside those Big Four, you have literally dozens of other dangerous organized crime groups. You have like the Mongols motorcycle gang in California. You have the Sons of Silence. You have all these other outlaw motorcycle gangs. But there's really acknowledged as 4 primary big gangs, and the Hells Angels are the king of that mountain.
How organized are the Hells Angels and some of the other big 3, I guess, other gangs out there? Like how, you said they're international now, which I've heard of. Is it like the mafia? Is it that organized where they have things just happening behind the scenes all the time, and they have this sort of hierarchy of bosses and people kind of running the show?
It's interesting that you compare them to the mafia, like to traditional organized crime, to the Italian Sicilian mob, is because biker gangs actually went to school on traditional organized crime. And they learned and patterned themselves after that to some extent. There's a hierarchy in these gangs. There's insulation from the leadership all the way down to the soldiers on the street. They have learned to be less observable, less out there, less in your face. A lot of what's going on with them goes on behind the scenes, just like the mob does. You know, you could be sitting at dinner and the table next to you could be a full-blown mafia organized crime member. You wouldn't know it. You could be doing the same thing with one of these biker gang members, and they've learned to conceal themselves. They've learned to hide in plain sight.
Is it as violent? Is it as deadly? Is it, I mean, are they running drugs? Are they running guns? All that stuff like you'd see in, say, like Sons of Anarchy. I know they sort of mimic one of those, you know, Hells Angels or one of the other major gangs. Is it like that? Is it as sort of prevalent and, I guess, organized in that sense?
From my experience, any level of crime and violent crime that you can imagine was present, from murder to rape to gun running to drug dealing to trafficking of narcotics and firearms, extortion, prostitution, human trafficking, assaults, you name it, it's there. The common theme amongst all that is that if there is an opportunity to make money, they're going to get in it. That's what they're about. They're about hate and money.
Are they about riding motorcycles anymore, or is that just sort of a background thing?
Yeah, that is ultimately probably their common bond. That's ultimately the core of their brotherhood and their friendships, are that they universally are attracted into that culture, into that motorcycle riding, that they do a great job of promoting it. They have a great propaganda machine, which basically says, we're not bad guys, we're not criminals, we're just these fun-loving rascals who like to ride motorcycles, and we don't want to live by society's rules. We want to live by our own rules. To the uneducated public, that's kind of intoxicating. That sounds kind of cool, right? But it's never that simple. It's never that innocent. As much as they try to sell us that it is, it's never that innocent.
What was the preparation like before you infiltrated the Hells Angels for 2 years? How much did you have to study? How much did you have to sort of step into this role? How much did you have to pretend to be this, new guy before you actually went on? Was it like months of work? Was it years? Can you talk about that for a moment?
It was, for me, it was a professional lifetime, 15 years of undercover work before I took that case on. Probably not a moment before I accepted that assignment was I ready for it. And I'm not even sure I was ready for it when I did accept it, to be quite honest with you.
Wow.
I had, like anybody in any new job, I had started slow, trial by fire. I had been out doing, as a young agent, street buys, small hand-to-hand narcotics deals, one-on-one transactions. But prior to the Hells Angels infiltration, I had done other infiltrations. I had worked on traditional organized crime cases. I had infiltrated home invasion crews. I had done murder for hire investigations, large-scale drug trafficking, large-scale gun and bomb cases. So I was as well prepared as anybody could be as a lawman to take on that assignment. But with that said, there was people in my own organization who I believe would have been better in the role I played than I played, because I wasn't familiar or comfortable with that outlaw biker gang culture, the mentality. So I learned that on the fly a little bit.
Do you still believe that, looking back now, that those guys would have did a better job, or did you just believe that at the time?
I believed it then, and I believe it now. I know that there's partners, peers of mine, who had worked those types of cases and worked them for years prior to that and worked them successfully and were very comfortable in that world. I wasn't an expert motorcycle rider. I didn't know a whole lot about motorcycles. I didn't know all about the protocols and bylaws and all the rules that exist in that world. And rather than try to fake it and pretend that I was an expert in that world, I just went forward with the attitude that I'm not. Teach me. Show me what I'm supposed to know. Teach me how I'm supposed to act. And so it wasn't really that big of an undercover scam. I was being honest. I was being truthful with them. I don't really understand how all this works, you guys. Show me. Show me what to do. Tell me what to say. Show me how to act.
That's pretty cool. It makes a lot of sense and seems like it'd be a lot more effective than trying to play this part that you can't really fill. But
one of the worst mistakes you can make as an undercover operative is pretending to be something that you're not. Because if I can't sell it, if I personally don't believe it in my head and in my heart, how am I going to make you believe it? I have to believe the persona that I'm portraying. I have to be comfortable and confident in myself. So my comfort and confidence level came from a position of saying, I am not an expert biker. I don't have years and years of experience riding motorcycles and riding in packs and surviving and thriving in this environment. Like, I'm here to learn. I made myself attractive to them, and they embraced me and recruited me in because of some of these outside elements that I was more comfortable in. I played myself off to be a debt collector. I played myself off to be a gun runner. I played myself off to be a quasi hitman. Those were all personas that I had used previously and that I was comfortable with. So I used those from the base of my credibility, and then went forward with them and basically said, teach me everything else.
When you say quasi hitman, what do you mean by that exactly?
Well, I had worked on multiple murder for hire cases where information would come into law enforcement that someone wants someone else murdered. And then we would, through any number of tricks or mechanisms, get in the middle of that. And then I would play the role of a hitman. And I would, for example, if you wanted someone killed, I would meet with you and I would have those conversations with you, and I would set that up and then leave you and then lead you to believe that I had killed your victim, and then come back to you for payment or compensation. That was something that I had done many times before, and I was comfortable in that role presenting that to the Hells Angels. And I had done it enough and done it successfully enough that when I did present it, they believed it.
So what happened to the people that were supposed to be dead? Would they just kind of like disappear under the radar too, maybe go into some witness protection type of thing?
It's when those murder for hire cases, when one of those drops in your lap, it's the clock comes to a standstill, and at the same time, it's racing. It's like everything you're doing has to stop. You're literally playing God with someone's life when you're put in a position to be the person selected to go murder someone. So everything you're doing, your personal life, your professional life, anything else that's happening comes to a stop, and you have to focus on that. But at the same time, the minute hand on the clock is spinning so fast because the clock is ticking. You have someone's life in your hands. So, typically we would approach the victim and tell them, man, you know what? Someone out there wants you dead, but today's your lucky day because the person that they've hired to kill you is a cop. So cooperate with us. Help us catch this person that wants you dead. Man, 99 times out of 100, that person's going to say, yeah, what do you need me to do?
All right. So, and then you would sort of help them go under the radar after that and sort of disappear.
Yeah, and to the extent of, taking our alleged victim and dressing them up and making them look dead through makeup and through artistry and through scene creation. And then taking that fabricated evidence of a murder back to the solicitor, back to the suspect, saying, hey, here you go. Here's evidence that this person you want's dead. Pay me. I had done that many times before, and we actually did it within the Hells Angels case. And the event, the murder scam that we ran on the Hells Angels ultimately is what put us over the top, where they put their vests on our back and said, man, you guys got what it takes. You took care of business. You've shown that you're worthy of membership in this gang. Welcome.
Wow, that's pretty intense. So what happened? How did you actually start to infiltrate? What was sort of the first day? Was it uneventful, or was it kind of walking up to the club leader or whatever they're called, the president of the chapter? Was it doing something crazy on the first day with them, or was it just kind of a slow process of sort of building that trust up?
Well, what you don't do with these guys is knock on the clubhouse door and say, hello, fellas, I'm interested in being a member. Where do I fill out my application? It doesn't work that way. It was a slow integration, and through the help of some cooperating individuals, some informants, we actually infiltrated a very small but dangerous biker gang that was based in Mexico. And the Hells Angels infiltration, which was called Operation Black Biscuit, which is described in my book No Angel, it was actually two infiltrations in one. We infiltrated this smaller gang first, not to work them, not to investigate them criminally, but to use our association with them for credibility in the eyes of the Hells Angels. So now we were part of that world. In the Hells Angels' eyes, we were part of that culture. We'd already been vetted. And then it was a matter of spending time with them, getting to know them, It's a painstaking process at times.
Mm-hmm.
It's timely.